Another glorious day as Spider-Man. Still not used to calling myself that. Huh. I know.
Did you know it's been 6 years since Marvel's Spider-Man animated series first swung on to Disney XD on August 19th, 2017? With 3 action-packed seasons, including the explosive Maximum Venom arc, this show redefined Peter Parker's journey like never before. But how did it all begin? And where did it end? Let's dive into the web of this iconic series. You won't believe how much you've missed. When Peter Parker was just a child, his parents left the world where they would have shared life as a family. Although at that stage and throughout his growth, he didn't notice much the absence of his parents, as the parenthood taken away by life was very well assumed by his wonderful uncle and aunt, Ben and May Parker. Aunt May gave him the loving warmth and emotional security only a mother can provide, and Uncle Ben gave him the irreplaceable life guidance only a father can naturally offer. There's no doubt Aunt May influenced Peter's formation as an individual, but she would be more influential later on, as Uncle Ben was undoubtedly the cornerstone of his early development. Peter considered him his mentor, his father, and his best friend. Even though Ben wasn't a prodigious genius like Peter, he gave his all to support and keep him inspired in his love for science, mostly through reflections and advice that filled Peter with values to remain humble. For a young boy physically inferior to others and passionate about a not-so-popular field in school life, Peter was the target of mockery and abuse at Midtown High, where being a nerd didn't guarantee social success. The star player of Midtown's football team, Flash Thompson, made his life miserable, but at home, his uncle was there to give him strength and help him forget the bad times at school. He helped him heal his hatred without resorting to violence, offering advice and a helping hand to resolve his conflicts with bullies.
Sometimes hard work is just the break your brain needs to jumpstart a new idea.
Good thinking, Uncle Ben.
But on a fateful day, Peter's life took a 180-degree turn. It all starts during a science tour organized by Oscorp Industries. At this prestigious place, there's been an escape of spiders. Everything's fine, says Peter. Spiders are the least of our problems compared to a nuclear meltdown, gamma radiation, or Asgardian interference. The thing is, these spiders were subjected to mutagenic experimentation, and just minutes later, one of them bites poor Peter Parker. Tragedies strike consecutively. Peter notices a drastic change in his behavior. He now possesses super strength, super vision, enhanced senses, super hair for surface adhesion, super jumping, and super sensory perception. He meticulously studies each of these details using the scientific method, concluding that to complete the arachnid package, he needs to forge his own web shooters with a highly resistant silk that mimics the protein spiders produce. Peter becomes obsessed with this newfound gift, and looking for an easy way out of financial struggles, decides to sell himself to the spectacle for instant fame and money.
Mine. Audition for a movie. Post a video on the internet? Host a kid show.
Being underage, he creates a red and blue suit to keep his identity secret, especially after defeating the champion of an underground fighting ring. Peter achieves his goal, but naively realizes it's not what he expected. He gets a taste of how easy paths lead to dangerous roads, especially when he experiences the loss of his mentor, father, and best friend. He would have been proud of the trophy, but he'll never see it. You know what else? It's made of 3 types of metal, the same thing that ended my uncle's life. Knowing you, Uncle Ben, you'd say I should find the lesson in all this, but I'm too angry to think like that. Now, let's see what kind of man I am. Young Peter's judgment becomes clouded, and all he wants is to exterminate the man who took his beloved Uncle Ben from him. He tracks him down, beats him, intimidates him, and threatens him, but soon recognizes the face of the thug, the same one he let escape when he had the chance to stop him, but chose not to, blinded by the comfort of imagining himself in a tower of money, fame, and immediate glory. What am I saying? What have I done? Far from this immense guilt and remorse breaking Peter Parker, they become his perfect excuse to use his great power with great responsibility, as it will be the best way to honor his uncle's name. People like Uncle Ben can't be replaced, but what they believed in can continue through our values and our work. It's been 2 weeks since the radioactive spider bit Peter and gave him superhuman powers. 14 days in which he's reflected deeply on using his gift responsibly. 336 hours in which he's studied his arachnid behavior and learned to use it well in combat. Now it's time for him to debut as Spider-Man in the public eye, and the best way he found was to intervene in a police raid to stop some criminals trying to steal vibranium. But before he even gets close to the battlefield, a pigeon ruins his heroic moment. Peter may have the gift and the intellectual capacity to understand and perfect it, but he still lacks a lot of experience to make a triumphant entrance, especially when it comes to controlling his nerves. So, he turns to the most important memory he has of his uncle. I know a formula that's always helped me in every situation. With great power comes great responsibility. Filled with confidence, he leaps into action, taking the first step to begin his important journey as a masked vigilante, a journey that, at this point, is far from complete. There's a more transcendent obstacle that always refreshes his life. For better or worse, his human side as Peter Parker, a 15-year-old boy who's always lived in a tight family economy. But it was never as big a problem as now, with Uncle Ben gone and the main source of income lost. All financial responsibility has fallen on Aunt May's shoulders, and Peter feels helpless, unable to bring even a single dollar home to ease her enormous burden. Aunt May and I barely make ends meet now that Uncle Ben is gone. But he feels even more frustrated and powerless when he earns a partial scholarship to study at Horizon High, an exclusive school for geniuses where he only dreamed of studying. Unlike the humble Midtown High, at Horizon High, he can fully exploit his intelligence to earn excellent recommendations and job positions, promising a better life for him and his beloved aunt. The problem is, being a private and luxurious institute, his financial resources don't cover it, even if he collects every last penny from his piggy bank. Still, Aunt May wants her beloved nephew to succeed at the highest level, knowing Uncle Ben would be proud of Peter's achievement. So she takes on a second job to try to pay the tuition. Peter manages to enroll at Horizon High, where he quickly realizes it's a completely different world from what he was used to at Midtown. There he meets Max Modell, the founder and director of Horizon High, who saw potential in Peter and invited him to fill the available spot at the school. Miles Morales, a very sociable and cheerful boy who will soon become a great friend of Peter's. Gwen Stacy, the popular and most beloved girl in the teenage social circle who's also incredibly intelligent, thanks to her uncle, Raymond Warren. Anya Corazon, the most outstanding student at Horizon and Gwen's best friend, and Otto Octavius, the most prominent professor at Horizon, a prodigious scientific genius and Max Modell's right-hand man. Peter feels empowered by Horizon's advanced scientific resources, which help him improve his suit, turning it from a closet pajama into a scientific suit that enhances all his physical abilities. He's already faced enemies beyond the basics of dodging knives or bullets. Common thugs are one thing, but it's much harder to face specialized criminals like a mind-controlling vulture with a height advantage, a half-gill scorpion whose sting could send him to the grave, or a black cat whose sensuality could stop his heart. However, Peter realizes his aunt is working double shifts and doesn't hesitate to put his dream on hold, as the tuition is too expensive. Aunt May, I won't let you get another job just so I can study. I never should have accepted that spot. But as if it were a gift from cosmic justice for the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, Max Modell learns of his decision to leave Horizon. He respects his decision, but also takes pity on him and offers him a position as his lab assistant so he can earn some money enough to pay the full tuition and prevent his aunt from working herself to death. You're wonderful. You always make your uncle and me proud. Now more than ever, Peter understands the weight of his uncle's reflection. With your intelligence, son, you have more power than thousands of bullies. The question is, will you use that power just for revenge, or will you use it to make the world a better place? And as a thank you to the unforgettable memory of his uncle, the latent love of his aunt, the irreplaceable friendship of Harry Osborn, the guidance of Max Modell, and all the people who've contributed little or much to his life, he's more than willing to watch over New York from the heights and protect it, no matter the cost. I must be more than a celebrity. I must become a symbol, a beacon of hope. I must become a hero, and I know that's what Uncle Ben would have wanted. The friendly neighborhood Spider-Man has achieved great personal growth, allowing him to be a better hero, but he never gets a break, as there's always a steeper step to climb. He experiences that his friend Gwen's uncle is one of his most persistent villains. Professor Raymond Warren is one of New York's most prominent scientists, but he's always taken his projects to extremes. He was the one who mutated spiders to create an army of human arachnids. He experimented on himself and became the Jackal, and now, just to cause chaos, he turned a Horizon student into a rhino, which backfires when his niece Gwen discovers him. Heartbroken, Gwen doesn't hesitate to let Spider-Man stop him and turn him over to the authorities. The uncle who raised her almost as much as her parents and nurtured her love for science ended up using what he taught her with so much love and respect to perpetuate evil. Peter Parker has no choice but to comfort his friend with everything he's learned along the way. But if I've learned anything, it's that even if the person who inspired you is gone, it doesn't mean they can't be here or here. Another example of a moral challenge for Peter is when Sandman appears to ask for his help. Flint Marko, due to his difficulty in earning honest money, chose the criminal path, which cost him dearly. Disappointing Hammerhead, this mobster turned him into sand and convinced his beloved daughter, Kimia, that he's human garbage. All my good grades were in vain because my fate was sealed with sand. From that day on, she seeks revenge against her father, and when she finds the right moment, she focuses on beating him with all the rage she's accumulated, even to the point of ending his existence. I'm sorry. I love you so much. For this occasion, Spider-Man feels powerless to remedy the situation, a daughter killing her father before his eyes, and he would give anything to have Uncle Ben alive. Despite all this, his most decisive moral test can't be missing. Right in the Sandy conflict, Spider-Man bonds with the symbiote, and just as Sandgirl is about to crush him like she did her father, the symbiote takes over and saves his life. At first, Peter sees his new acquisition as the best thing that could have happened to him. His physical abilities have reached their peak with this new suit. Criminals and supervillains are no longer even a minor nuisance. However, this is exactly what makes the symbiote deceive its host. It tempts him with powerful physical benefits, but drains his emotions and sensations until he becomes a soulless person. Thanks to the accusations and incriminating looks from his loved ones, Peter realizes the change his personality has undergone since bonding with the symbiote and wants to get rid of it at any cost. He succeeds with the help of Tony Stark's technology and Flash Thompson's strength. His small but precious reward is receiving praise and an autograph from his idol. Do you really think Spider-Man is a hero? He's on that path, but he needs guidance. However, a very familiar monster attacks him to get his attention. It turns out the symbiote has possessed another victim. Peter thinks this is impossible since Stark locked the symbiote in the Avengers Tower where there's maximum security. In any case, he contacts Stark, but he's in space and can't help at the moment. Meanwhile, Peter has to help Flash with an important exam that, if he passes, will allow him to remain on the Midtown High football team. At this moment, Peter realizes he's more aggressive than usual and that it's clearly Flash who bonded with the symbiote, not because he wanted to, but because the symbiote created a bond when Flash helped Spider-Man remove it. In the end, Spider-Man helps Flash free himself from the symbiote by delivering the remains of the alien entity to Max Modell. In this case, Spider-Man's reward is reinforcing his value of not taking advantage of great power, and Peter's reward is influencing his biggest bully by helping him pass the exam selflessly, making him value the nerd he used to mock the most. Uncle Ben is once again proven right, and Peter honors his memory. With your intelligence, son, you have more power than thousands of bullies. Okay, we're nearing the end of the first season, but first, we need to understand the threads that move the psyche of the most important character beneath Spider-Man, because now Harry Osborn takes the relevance he deserves. Harry is the son of Norman and Emily Osborn. Sadly, Emily dies during childbirth. Her sudden death deeply traumatizes Norman, who, with no experience, is left in complete charge of his newborn son and his expanding company. Instead of falling apart, Norman convinces himself of a purpose to continue strong and eager to live. He fixates on the idea of giving everything so the Osborn name stands at the top of the world. However, everything taken to the extreme becomes harmful, and Norman's rigor with work and public image meant he didn't spend much time with his son. Harry, instilling in him psychological stress, Harry must not have a single failure in his life to avoid tarnishing the Osborn name. Fortunately, Harry meets Peter as a child, a friend who would accompany him through his best and worst moments. However, it turns out Peter is admitted to Horizon High and must leave Midtown High, where he spent his entire school life with Peter. Both resent the event, But the happiness of Harry attending a school for geniuses outweighs losing the daily company of a friend. However, shortly after, Peter wins a spot at Horizon, and just when Harry was about to share high school with his friend again, Spencer Smiley sabotages him and gets him expelled from Horizon. Seeing that the Osborn name could be tarnished by this bad image, Norman offers his son the chance to be the face of his new school for geniuses. Although Harry prefers to fight to stay at Horizon and build his own identity, not wanting to always be seen as the kid born with a silver spoon and who had it all easy. Adding to that, his best friend could study with him again. Harry, I've given my whole life to the Osborn Academy. How do you think I'll look if you abandon me? I beg you, stay. I'll think about it, Dad. Despite his conviction to be someone on his own, Harry chooses to attend to his father's feelings and stays at the Osborn Academy. But how does this affect the main storyline of Spider-Man? Well, Harry has immense pressure on him and feels imprisoned by the weight of his last name, making him very fragile, especially when he starts noticing his best friend is always busy. We justify Peter because we know he's Spider-Man, but Harry sees his friend's absence as a slight against him. Still, Harry tries to stay sane so his emotions don't work against him, but when Spider-Man enters his life, all the gunpowder accumulated inside him explodes. Spider-Man, as the friendly neighborhood hero, has found himself in the position of stopping criminal events, most of which involve Norman Osborn as either a victim or perpetrator. Because of this, the wall crawler starts suspecting that his best friend's father is involved in something shady. Consequently, he has to keep an eye on Norman day and night. Norman grows tired of this and sees the web slinger as a potential threat, instilling in Harry a terrible hatred for Spider-Man, claiming he wants to sabotage the Osborn name. But it offends me that you still call him a superhero. He's a threat. Norman always comes out unscathed from the criminal cases he's involved in. However, everything comes to a head in an act of selfless sacrifice. Dr. Otto Octavius risks his life to pay for a nuclear reactor and save his students at Horizon High. The thing is, the doctors inform him that due to the radioactive explosion, he'll be permanently fused with his mechanical arms. Far from becoming a villain, Octavius helps Spider-Man with an enemy, and Spider-Man offers him a partnership. This is how Dr. Octopus teams up with Spider-Man and Miles Morales. However, everything falls apart when Norman meddles. On several occasions, he asked Octavius to join his academy to contribute with his extreme intelligence. When he receives several rejections from the professor, he does everything to make Octavius believe Spider-Man and Max Modell are against him. Resign. Go where you're truly appreciated. Welcome to Oscorp Academy. I've waited a long time for this moment. Thank you, Norman. Now, Spider-Man has no doubt that Osborn is a bad guy, especially when it's revealed that he manipulated his scientist Kurt Connors into becoming the Lizard to use him for selfish purposes. But worse, when he discovers a video where Norman planned the entire sabotage against Harry, Spider-Man internalizes that the guy isn't right in the head. He sabotaged his own son to make him attend his academy. As it had to happen at some point, Norman's egocentrism backfires. The Jackal and Rhino attack him in his own facilities. It turns out Raymond Warren wants revenge for the time Norman discarded him like trash after his mutated spider project got out of hand, and now Norman wants to eliminate all traces of his failed project. Adding to this, Norman took ownership of Octavius's inventions without his consent, simply because he worked at his academy. Fed up with everything, Otto rebels against him and takes advantage of Norman gathering a group of soldiers to use them against him, allying with the Jackal. However, Norman manages to destroy the Jackal's arachnid project. The situation is that he gets trapped in the explosion, and despite Spider-Man's attempts to hold the rubble, Norman asks him to save his son and forget about him because there's no time. You never liked me. You don't trust me. When you build your empire on pillars of hate, fear, and betrayal, no one can stop the walls from crumbling, despite everything. The fact that proven supervillains attacked him until causing his death allows him to remain untarnished in the public eye, especially in the eyes of his son Harry, who resents his father's death. The only family he ever had, hating Spider-Man even more for not saving him, and supposedly siding with the Jackal. He even grows distant from his best friend, as Octavius revealed to him that Peter works with Spider-Man. However, Harry will have to mask his hatred to work alongside Spider-Man, and this sudden change will leave everyone wondering. It turns out the explosion that supposedly killed Norman spread the spider gene from Warren's project all over New York. Literally, everyone becomes human spiders. Clearly, Norman, who was at the epicenter of the explosion, absorbed most of the spider gene, and not only that, but as the first, he's the number one to mutate into a monstrous spider creature. Why? Just because. Shortly after, everyone in New York mutates into spider monsters. So Peter, Harry, Miles, Gwen, and Anya, who also became spider women, must cure New York of this arachnid epidemic. Anya Corazon manages to create a synthetic cure for herself, which works, but they need a larger and more effective substance to cure 8 million people. For this, they need Spider-Man's blood and replicate it for millions of cures. First, they need to test it on Norman, the king of the spider monsters. Once again, Spider-Man has to assume his power with great responsibility. Spider-Man is here. He's been by your side all this time. At the cost of his best friend hating him for the revelation and making his life impossible as revenge, Peter doesn't hesitate to use his blood to reverse Norman's transformation and save him from an agonizing death. Peter saves his worst enemy. Shortly after, he saves the 8 million citizens, though, of course, they had to synthesize or clone his blood so they wouldn't drain him and leave him pale. Everyone is cured, and it's a happy ending because in life it's not the things that matter, but the people. A happy ending in a Peter Parker tragedy? I don't think so. Despite Peter helping Norman, even though he didn't deserve it, Harry remains resentful of his best friend. He hasn't been able to process everything that's happened recently and remains emotionally unstable. Go play the hero. No one wants you here. On the other hand, Octavius revives the idea of the Sinister Six, this time to cause evil, but especially to control Spider-Man and make him join them to form a more efficient group of villains. Hey, the Sinister Six had a point. That sounds much better than 5. The Osborns find out Spider-Man is causing chaos in the city. Consequently, Norman takes the opportunity to reinforce the idea in Harry that Spider-Man has always been a criminal in disguise. From the bottom of his heart, he asks Harry to stop the threat and let him be a proud father, knowing his son has become the hero New York always needed. For this, he provides all the advanced equipment to turn Harry into the Hobgoblin. Harry sets out to defeat each of the Sinister Six, but now that he knows his best friend is Spider-Man, he gives him a chance to look him in the eye and convince himself he's not a criminal. Thanks to this, Spider-Man breaks free from Octavius's mind control and, together with Harry, gives him a beating. Now, Spider-Man and the Hobgoblin are allies. Both friends couldn't be happier, but out of nowhere, the Goblin starts attacking Spider-Man and swears he doesn't know what's happening. Soon, it's revealed that Norman has been using the Hobgoblin gear to eradicate the spider. Harry has had enough of his father's manipulations and confronts him. Norman reveals his reasons for sabotaging him to get him out of Horizon High so that, under his absolute control, he could become the hero who lives up to the Osborn name. Sadly, things don't end well for Harry. His father explodes once more, and this time he really dies. At the same time, Harry deals with his significant loss and has to take charge of Oscorp Industries, doing so mostly to take the path of good and honor the Osborn name, in a way fulfilling his father's dream. I hope the corporate world accepts me like you. Just be yourself, Harry. That's all people expect. Closing with Peter, his first year at Horizon has ended, and he must empty his locker. Aunt May is very proud of him. Also realizing that Max Modell had a statue of Spider-Man built at the entrance of Horizon, the Institute, the friendly neighborhood hero, protected for an entire year. The enormous sacrifice a hero makes can be greatly rewarded with a simple act of gratitude. Peter has achieved it for Spider-Man. Without a doubt, Uncle Ben must be looking down at his nephew with great pride. We dive into the second season. Summer vacations fill all the young students with happiness, well, except Peter, who, while vacationing with his buddy Miles, has to deal with 1,000 things, personal matters, and criminal issues. With a week left before starting his second year of high school, Peter looks at his vacation history and only finds a pile of stress, though at least he had another encounter with his favorite black cat. But the worst part is when Max tells him he can no longer be his assistant due to a decision by the student committee. So once again, financial problems return to afford his studies at Horizon High. Poor Peter. Seriously, how can you hate this poor wretch? It's not like he's sponsored by a genius billionaire playboy philanthropist, so he's forced to find a job. Without a doubt, this kid represents us and fills us with pride. Peter attends many job interviews, but during the interviews, he has to go remedy a crime, so the interviewers see him as crazy and send him packing. Luckily, in a way, they give him the opportunity to take photos for them, but only if he gets a good shot of Spider-Man, something he never manages to get, unlike Eddie Brock, which is why J. Jonah Jameson always gives him a hard time. Fortunately for Peter, he is Spider-Man, so it's not hard for him to get a good video and win the position. However, he soon realizes JJ wanted a good shot of Spider-Man to defame him. You know, the goal of most media. Peter manages to pay his tuition and starts saving for his school year, but the cost of handing over his heroic figure to be sold as a threat is painful for him. And to make matters worse, the stingy JJ pays him peanuts. Hey, get out of here before Stark comes to deal with you. Thanks to J. Jonah Jameson of the Daily Bugle, my reputation is trash. Luckily, Spider-Man finds solace in the few who, no matter what the trash press says, don't overlook what their hero does for the city. And what JJ definitely doesn't overlook is giving Eddie Brock his daily scolding. If we think Parker is disadvantaged, then Brock is a poor wretch. Eddie has no family to turn to, has never had great opportunities in life, lives in poverty, is constantly about to be evicted for owing rent, and can't get a good photo of Spider-Man for JJ to give him a decent paycheck. Honestly, I have no adjective to describe Eddie's misfortune. Poor, unfortunate Brock. That's why I feel for him. Just as he was establishing himself as a photographer for the Daily Bugle, a 16-year-old kid comes to snatch his best opportunities. He was covering the story of the space thing that fell to Earth a year and a half ago, V-252, which was assigned to Horizon High for scientific investigation. Well, without much ado, this V-252 is the Symbiote, and now JJ has given the journalistic investigation to Peter. Eddie wants to get ahead to have the exclusive, so he infiltrates the V-252's lair. But as absolutely no one expected, the symbiote senses Eddie's rage and possesses him. Your house, your job, everything. And I wonder how this kid has so much, and now it's mine. Now, only Venom remains. Yes, that's how the true daddy, handsome Venom, is born. And of course, one of the first things he does is take revenge on JJ and Peter. For this, he uses his old reliable. First, he kidnaps JJ, then all of Venom's loved ones. He knows revealing Spider-Man's secret is key to destroying him. So now that he has everyone gathered, he reveals that Spider-Man is Peter Parker. Luckily for Peter, but unluckily for the narrative, Miles saves his butt by dressing up as Spider-Man to reveal that he's the real one, and Peter is just a fan. In the process, both give Venom a beating and separate the symbiote from Eddie. Done. Full. The venomous one. Because the power of the script didn't let him make Peter suffer more, and especially J. Jonah Jameson. But well, we've reached the end of the second season. We start with the only sequel, Venom leaves. JJ firing Peter for being in cahoots with Spider-Man, and now Peter is left without income again. Luckily, Max Modell gives him the opportunity to deliver a big project to win the prize at the Horizon Fair, Nobel Prize. But unfortunately, Peter doesn't even have cobwebs in his wallet to buy materials. Still, he manages to create his project with what he has on hand, which leaves him exhausted. Add to that his constant responsibility as Spider-Man recovering several hours of sleep at school. This physically and mentally exhausted state starts taking its toll. We can notice it when he tries to use his spider powers but fails. This disadvantage leaves him vulnerable against villains, so Dr. Octopus takes advantage of the situation and executes his master plan to take revenge on the web-slinger. Yes, Octavius steals Peter's body, sending him to a neural dimension. This male does nonsense to Spider-Man's life. He fights with Max Modell and quits Horizon High, gets angry with his friends, fights with heroes who admired him, clashes with the Avengers, lets a bunch of criminals escape. However, Octavius crashes into a wall of explosive mines because, while doing evil, his mind is tortured with flashes that always stop Peter when he thinks of doing something wrong. His uncle's advice, his uncle's death, and when he let his uncle's killer go. These traumas make Otto reconsider, so now he tries to use his powers with great responsibility. He takes it so seriously that he even creates a new suit, calling himself the Superior Spider-Man, the superior version of the old Spider-Man, obviously on Peter's side. Of course, Peter is furious about what the guy who a year ago was his admired professor did to him. However, he also becomes immersed in Otto's traumas, being on the same level as his own. He can perceive how Otto was a genius since childhood and wanted to use his gift to do good things in the future. A happy and prodigious child with a huge magnetism to attract society's scum. Otto suffered constant physical and psychological abuse at school. When he got home, his only happy place to enjoy his hobby, his father, who had a more tragic view of life, made him internalize that his science was a waste of time, that the only important thing in life was power, passing all his misery to little Otto. So he started applying this advice with his bully, whom he couldn't take revenge on physically, but could with his great intelligence. He made his bully fail and have no chance of going to a good university. That's what you do with great power, destroy others' lives. And if Venom and I hadn't been well educated, I would have turned out just as vengeful a villain. In the end, this mutual understanding between Peter and Octavius allows both to reflect deeply on their attitudes, especially when Otto meets a mini-scientist named Anna Maria, who has suffered from low self-esteem all her life due to being born with dwarfism. Anna Maria shows him that despite being born with physical disadvantages, she overcame most of her trials by fire and reached great heights in what she loved most. They treated me like an outcast as a child. It was much safer to disconnect from humanity. I experienced a blissful isolation, time for myself and my ideas, but I also felt alone. I never had friends. Now you do. Both reach a truce and switch bodies again. The thing is, Otto's body is in a coma due to the change. His debt for what he did is that he'll probably remain in a coma forever. Still, Anna Maria has hope that her friend will return, so she'll wait until he regains consciousness. On the other hand, Peter regains his life but must also recover everything Otto destroyed in his absence. He has to apologize to Max Modell to be readmitted to Horizon, apologize to his friends, apologize to his fellow heroes, and repair his public image. In this mess, he'll never do well with JJ alive. For now, he doesn't succeed. Meanwhile, the culprit of it all wakes up from his coma and, as a sign of having reflected on how wrong it was to use his resentment to harm others, asks for forgiveness from the kid he screwed. I wanted to settle my debt. I think the words you're looking for... Nothing, Peter. Welcome. Still, Peter doesn't manage to reconcile with his surroundings, especially with Max Modell, who remains hurt by what he said. So, he can't return to Horizon High because he can't reveal the secret that Otto switched bodies with him, wanting to take advantage of Spider-Man. He's trapped. He has no one to tell his frustration to. Harry, the only one who knows his secret and isn't mad at him, is traveling for business reasons. Peter has no choice but to visit Uncle Ben's grave, hoping his mind will be clear and he can find a way out. But at that moment, Otto keeps him company, clarifying that even though he never met Uncle Ben, he inspired him to repent from doing evil and understands that he wants advice from him, but he's not alive. Though he still has a purpose, and that's to be the spectacular Spider-Man who makes a difference in the world. Out of nowhere, a goblin nation appears. Look, I'm not gonna drag this out because I find it boring. Don't worry, it has nothing to do with Norman Osborn. He's still 6 feet under, or is he? Well, this goblin nation makes things difficult for Spider-Man, so much so that he needs the help of the Hobgoblin, Miles Morales, Spider-Girl, and even Dr. Octopus, along with his little love, Anna Maria. But instead of things ending well, they get complicated when the Goblin King gets hold of a key device to create a super devastating machine. It might sound exaggerated, and it is, but the only way to stop him is through sacrifice. Of course, Spider-Man assumes it, but to redeem himself before his former student Peter and all those he hurt, Otto Gunther Octavius assumes the sacrifice, especially to go out as the hero Spider-Man once told him he could be. You're a hero. Maybe so. Otto Octavius dies in the arms of the only person who trusted him from start to finish. As a sign of gratitude, Peter and Anna Maria give him a dignified burial. Shortly after, his former colleague Max Modell and his most faithful students come to dedicate a few words in his honor. Otto can rest in peace. And as an indirect thank you to Peter, before dying, he left him his entire fortune so he could continue at Horizon High without financial problems. We really never gave Otto a second chance, and we don't want to make the same mistake with you. It's good to be back home. We move on to the 3rd season and the end of the series. Max Modell has been experimenting with V-252. Clearly he's worried because he previously experienced what the symbiote does to its host. However, Max Modell justifies that he took a small sample of the symbiote to replicate it at a cellular level, allowing it to have no life of its own and be manipulated at will. He always wanted to revolutionize the world with this space specimen, but the original symbiote had a life of its own and was dangerous due to its purpose of symbiosis. Max convinces Peter that he knew he was Spider-Man and has him experiment with the synthetic symbiote. This won't be a mistake if we test it properly together. Thank you, Peter. However, Curt Connors sabotages Max. For this, he fuses with the small sample of the symbiote that Medell kept to create the synthetic Venom, which is reborn and fuses with the synthetic symbiote Spider-Man carried. Connors rejects it because he doesn't need it and heads to a very special place for him. In this place, he's defeated by Spider-Man, Max Medell, and a Horizon student. But before the kid humiliates himself, he sends a signal into space. For what purpose? Well, we'll find out soon. For now, let's continue with Baby Groot, who annoys Peter. So he's not dumb. I am Groot. Though the poor guy just wanted to notify them of a message sent by the Guardians of the Galaxy, a message indicating that a group of symbiotes is heading to Earth to launch an invasion. Venom was the one who sent them the message. What a jerk. The situation is that the Avengers arrive on Earth after their space mission, but they arrive possessed by symbiotes, a first move to clear the path of heroes, so the supreme symbiotes can conquer terrestrial life without much trouble. Spider-Man is left practically alone, but then he remembers his professor Max Medell, as only with him can he create an anti-symbiote cure. For this, they forge anti-Venom, so they take Baby Groot to merge with anti-Venom and purge the other symbiotes. Done, alien invasion solved. But the story isn't over yet. There's still the issue of the sanction the school committee imposed on Max Modell for experimenting with something that unleashed chaos. In any case, Max has inspired so many people and Horizon students that he gets the support he deserves despite favorable statements on Max's behalf. Curt Connors keeps sticking his left arm in to further tarnish Max's image. Consequently, the school committee stands firm in its decision to expel him from Horizon, clearly positioning Connors as the new director of Horizon. But why did Connors do all this? Well, here comes the mother of all revelations. This guy is persistent. Norman was devastated the last time he was presumed dead. Obviously, he didn't accept his defeat, and worse, being left mutilated. So from that point on, he did everything to take over Max's research on the symbiote, which would allow him to recover his physical state and become the Dark Goblin. So he used Curt Connors to sabotage Max and steal the research. However, his victory doesn't last long because the Spider Team gives him a beating, and the final blow is delivered by his son Harry. Thanks to this, the school committee regrets its stupidity and exempts Max from all blame. Now everything returns to normal. Even Peter meets a very nice neighbor, a neighbor who stole his heart the moment he saw her. The neighbor is Mary Jane. Well, MJ is 100% cool. In fact, every time she saw him pass by, she invited him to play a few rounds of basketball. So when Peter tells her he doesn't have a prom date, she tells him to take her. Of course, how could I not, dummy? Once inside the dance, everything seems to be going wonderfully in this soap opera. Nothing can die in the middle of the dance. Max Modell presents his greatest invention, a matter transfer portal that can connect to any place, even with the planet Venom. Close it. What the heck? Well, yes. Venom has been manipulating Max for a good while with the goal of transporting his family to an ideal planet to complete his symbiosis. He succeeds, but since I'm tired of simple resolutions, I won't extend this further. Yes, as you guessed, the good guys win, and the gooey symbiotes lose. There aren't many repercussions, just the destruction of Horizon High, which, let's be honest, no one cares about. But before we go to the test, we can see how MJ scolds Peter for the dance they couldn't have at the party. We have the future ahead of us, and they lived happily ever after. This story has ended with a very cheesy ending. Perfectly cheesy. Here we conclude another audio-visual adventure. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of Spider-Man Maximum Venom and the twists and turns of his animated adventures, don't forget to hit that like button and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think of Peter's journey? Which moment stood out the most to you? And what would you like to see next? More Spider-Man content, or maybe another iconic superhero series? Let me know your suggestions. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on future videos. Your support means the world to me, and it's what keeps this channel going. Thanks for watching, and remember, with great power comes great responsibility. Until next time, stay amazing, and I'll see you in the next video.
We have our whole future ahead of us.